Welcome, everybody. This is our July 16 Hawaii statewide meeting. It's great to see you all here. And Keith, I think, will put a link in the chat very shortly, if he hasn't already, with an automated way to log your attendance. So that'll tell CCL that you are a very active CCLer. And they want to keep you on the mailing list. So that's great. And let's see, what else have I got to do? Oh, I was going to go to presenter screen. Yeah, I've made Noelle a co-host. I've recorded. Everything's fine. And so, Noelle, we could go to the agenda slide. And what we're seeing there is just 4 bullet points. Some of them are pretty in-depth, so they are welcome and connection before content. And then we're going to talk about CCL's values, missions, policy agenda, good stuff like that. National updates. Boy, have there been updates? Yes, there have. We'll get to that. And then, as always, there's a lot going on at the local scene with carbon cashback and many other things. So we'll cover those. And there's a little statement that I'm just going to practice reading for the record that CCL is a nonpartisan organization. We seek common ground among those who have differing political viewpoints. We welcome everyone who wants to work to enable effective climate legislation, and those efforts are included in this meeting and serve to build upon the common ground. So, Noelle, the next slide is connection before content. And our question for today, and you could stop share, Noelle, if you like, just for this slide, that would be good. And we can go to a gallery view. The question for today is, who has recently inspired you? And that could be anything you like. Culinary, it could be athletics, it could be climate, or it could be whatever. So if you'd like to raise your hand, you could do that, or you could put it in the chat. Somebody already put in the chat, oh, Keith, you could do that. Al Gore, June 2025. Al Gore has a TED Talk, which is Why Climate Action is Unstoppable. And Keith's going to put that in the chat. Anybody else like to make a comment? Raise your hand, unmute yourself, and come on in. While you're thinking about it, did anybody raise their hand? I don't see too many raised hands right there. But while you're thinking about it, let me say, I've got a book here. You may be able to see it. It's called World Without End. And I picked it up at Hilo Public Library just last week. I always like to browse the new books folder, and that was there. And it is an amazing story of two French people, who one is a climate expert, and the other is a comic strip journalist and artist. And this book is an illustrated guide to the climate crisis, and every page, if you can see that, is kind of comic drawings. And it's a fabulous thing. and Keith may be able to put in the chat a link to the climate scientist with a recent interview. His name is Jean-Marc Vankovici. Anybody else?
Hey, Ron. It is clear that you're not looking at the chat. There are a number of responses that have been put in there. So Ruth indicated Brian Schatz. Keith indicated John Lewis. Roberta has a list. Paul, Noel, Ruth, Helen, Keith, Karina, Doug, John, Bill, Tom, Virginia, and Ron. And
thank you, Roberta.
Paul mentioned Roberta, Bobby, Chelsea, Sophia, Shisato, and Julie. Karina mentions Trisha Hershey. Brett Cease, courtesy of Paul. Brett had reached out to me today, so I look forward to touching base with him. James Hansen, courtesy of Bill. Helen mentions Ed Nakaya. And so anyway, I just want to call attention to the fact that the responses were in the chat. Paul has his hand raised.
So sorry, Helen, for my ignorance. Who is Ed Nakaya? And actually, to you, Karina, who is Trisha Hersey?
Well, Ron said it could be anybody about anything. So Ed Nakaya is somebody who's in a group that we call Memory Catchers. It's a group of writers that meet once a month. And I've just been really impressed with Ed's courage and vulnerability in his writing. I've seen it, he works for, or he did work for KIUC and retired, and I'm seeing a whole new side of him.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't expect anybody except maybe Bevan and John would recognize his name.
Thank you.
So Trisha Hersey is someone that I've been following for a while. She created something called the Nap Ministry and has a book called Restless Resistance. It is a way to encourage people to just take a look inward, because this whole theory of us, working or living to work or whatever that section is, just encouraging people to take rest. So I'm reading her book now, and it's a good thing.
Thanks, Karina. Appreciate it.
Yeah, great. So, if you have a link to something like that, a book, or just write it and put it in the chat, that would be helpful. And we're going to try to remember to save the chat at the end of the meeting, the little 3 dots that are there somewhere on your chat screen. If you click on them, you'll get an option to save the chat to your own personal computer. So, Noel, maybe we can go back to slide number 4. Yeah. Is that slide 4? Let me let's check. Yeah, we need slide 4. Okay. So, slide 4, who we are. Well, we're a couple of 100,000 volunteers organized into chapters around the U.S., as we know, and we develop respectful relationships, starting from a place of respect, admiration, and gratitude. And so that's basically who we are. We move our leaders towards actions that preserve a healthy climate and a livable world. And then slide 5 is a listing of our core values. And Ruth, if you'd like to make comments.
Yes, thank you. That's me. So you can all see what our core values are there. They're at least indicated by those single words or two words. And I want to focus on the last one because we're moving toward Lobby Day. And the core value of personal power means that we use our voices to be heard in our democracy. This simple act transforms us from spectators to engaged citizens. We are volunteer driven, trusting volunteers to make important decisions. Each of us is essential to solving climate change. Thank you.
Very good, Grace. Thank you. And then moving on to slide 6.
Yes.
Keith, do you have
So our mission is to create the political will by building a nonpartisan, respectful relationships with Congress for a livable world by passing effective, equitable, and achievable carbon emissions reduction legislation, and to empower individuals to develop their personal and political power to become active political participants by using the 5 levers of political will: lobbying, media, grassroots, grass tops, and chapter development. And there's a link in the chat.
Great. So, Keith, let me ask you, do you see climate advocacy as basically a spectator sport?
No, it's very contact oriented. Up close and personal.
Yeah. Okay. So, one of the more demanding things we're going to talk about a little more later on, but one of the more demanding things is traveling to Washington, D.C. To lobby for Hawaii members of Congress. So congratulations to making that commitment to Paul and Sarah and Karina. And of course, for those who can't go, there are very easy actions to spend a few minutes each month or maybe each week to call or email our MOCs regarding current climate issues. And CCL helps us do that, giving us regular guidance and suggested talking points. So then what we have on slide 7 is our political agenda. And we've shown this before, and this audience is very familiar with that, so not going to belabor it. Our initial, we used to only have one objective, and that was carbon fee and dividend on the top left. It's been introduced in many past Congresses, unlikely to be reintroduced into the 119th Congress. So CCL has developed other policy agendas. The 2 on the bottom, the one on the right bottom is the one that's our primary ask for our conference and lobby day on July 22nd. And the secondary ask is related to the one on the left, and that's Fix Our Forest Act, the Senate version. So that's all I think we need to say about that right now. And national updates and actions. Okay, so today, we all know today is July 16th. We're halfway through the year, halfway through the first month of the last half of the year. And it's auspicious for CCL and for Ricky Bradley, who became CCL's new interim executive director today. And Ricky replaces Rachel Perestas, who held that executive director position for just over a year. And Rachel steered CCL through a very difficult time of funding constraints, which resulted in budget cuts and, unfortunately, staff layoffs. At the same time, CCL was also adopting a new, more targeted political strategy, and it urged CCL volunteers to focus their advocacy on national climate actions. And these changes continue, and fortunately, CCL's financial position has stabilized. Ricky's taken the helm. He's a well-known, well-respected staff member. He joined CCL in 2012, climbed ranks from a volunteer group leader. is Senior Director of Information Technology and Organized Strategy and Digital Tools. And one of the things that stood out to me about Ricky's CCL profile that's online is his climate advocacy journey began, according to his profile. What he says is that his mother gave him a copy of Dr. James Hansen's book, Storms of My Grandchildren, saying, read this and let me know what you think. And that turned Ricky around and got him totally motivated. And I got to say, it happened. That book by James Hansen is right here on my library shelf above me, and it's one of my favorite climate science books. So, Keith, if you can put those links in the chat, Ricky Bradley's CCL profile, and maybe just the name of James Hansen's book, if people are not familiar with that. And now, with the help of tech guru Noel, we would like to play part of Saturday, July 12th's National CCL monthly call.
Now we will turn to our featured guests for this month. So since we're heading to the Hill in just over a week, we wanted to hear from our very own government affairs team. So we'll start off with a discussion with CCL's Vice President of Government Affairs, Jen Tyler, and then we'll turn to her colleague, Mindy Aller, who is our Congressional Liaison Program Manager. So Jen, welcome. I wanted to start off with some of your thoughts and reflections on the whole budget reconciliation process that Congress just wrapped up and that we, of course, lobbied hard on for months. I'm sure that, folks are feeling some disappointment that this bill made it into law with such significant rollbacks to the clean energy tax credits, and they're sort of wondering, where do we go from here? So can you share some of your thinking about what this sort of tells us about Congress or how this might inform our advocacy going forward?
Yeah, definitely. Well, first, I want to thank everyone for joining the call, and I echo Ricky's thoughts. I'm super excited to see everyone in a week. But yeah, I think we're going into this conference. I certainly am. With a little bit of disappointment in what just happened, and I think it makes total sense to be disappointed. We worked incredibly hard. You guys made so many calls, so many emails, had lobby days, did so much outreach, and for the bill to not end up in a place where we could be supportive and was really harmful to clean energy, that's extremely disappointing. That being said, in the larger frame of what happened, this was happening in every issue area. It wasn't a climate specific thing. It happened with Medicaid. It happened with nutrition assistance. It was clear that, the outpouring of opposition or support for other policies was not as strong as some of the political force that was at play in this bill. That being said, with how disappointing it is, I do think as it was going on, there were some things that I noted that I think were encouraging, and we really do need to stop and take notice of, because I think we're going to be able to build on some of these things. The first is that, as Flannery, you mentioned before, the final bill was a lot better than the first version. So if you'll remember, even at the beginning of the Congress, Republicans were saying, we're just going to completely repeal the IRA, outright repeal. And the House bill was similar to that. The first bill that the House released and then passed was a pretty quick repeal of most of the clean energy tax credits. And that was pretty jarring for a lot of us. We had been lobbying on the House side. You guys had done a great job reaching out to those members, but we realized at that moment, we have to go even harder. We have to reach out more. We have to do more. And so we pivoted to the Senate side. And because of your outreach, and of course, industry's outreach, and there were other groups involved as well, but I think largely because constituents like you are making your voices heard, the Senate went in a very different direction. It still didn't end up being great for clean energy, but it preserved a lot of those clean energy tax credits much longer. It did give a longer runway for things like solar and wind. And even at the last minute, when a really toxic provision was put in to add an additional tax on solar and wind, our last minute advocacy took that off the table. So even though the bill wasn't great in its final iteration, it was much better than it could have been because of our outreach. I also want to note that throughout the process, we had a lot of different letters coming out from Republicans on clean energy provisions, advocating for these tax credits, saying how important they are to their district. And if you had told me even 6 years ago, we would be seeing some of these more conservative Republicans come out and say, I support all of these different tax credits, the battery storage tax credits, even solar and wind, I would not have thought you would get that public display of support this soon. And so even though their vote in the long run and the bill in the long run wasn't what we were looking for, it's clear that we are generating that support in Congress. It's there. They're willing to step out publicly and make those proclamations. And so we lost this immediate battle of this bill, but clearly we're building a foundation. We're in this for the long haul and we're going in the right direction. And the last thing I want to mention, just for context, is reconciliation is a really partisan process. This bill is obviously very different from the Inflation Reduction Act. We supported that previous reconciliation bill because it was so good on climate, but the processes were not all that dissimilar. It's a partisan process where the party determines what their goals are. Party leadership, the administration, puts a lot of influence into Congress of what they want to pass. And usually the party gets behind it, other than a few votes. That's what happened on the IRA. That's what happened with this bill. And so we know that when there's a partisan process, it's really hard to influence and shape things that are going to be durable. That's why the IRA is now under attack. It's not durable when it's one party pushing things forward. But we have seen that when there's bipartisan opportunities, like the infrastructure bill, a lot of different bills, the Growing Climate Solutions Act, when it's bipartisan, it's able to stand the test of time. And so that's what we're looking at going forward. We're obviously going to engage whenever it matters, including on bills like this one, but we're going to push for those bipartisan opportunities to really move climate forward and keep it in place.
That makes sense. Thank you so much for that perspective, Jen. I don't know about y'all. I always feel better when I hear Jen tell us how to think about things. So, Jen, I wonder, can you also comment on the timeline of it all? Because reconciliation usually takes a while, but this one feels like it surged forward pretty quickly by comparison with the Inflation Reduction Act, right?
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, I think, it's only July. That was pretty quick. Also, these 7 months have felt like, 7 years in some respects. So, it was quicker than the Inflation Reduction Act, certainly. And I think that shows, some of the influence that the administration has, party leadership has. They were able to get all of their members in alignment and pass it. The Inflation Reduction Act took over 18 months for all the Democratic members to get on board and have enough votes to pass. So definitely was quicker than we thought. We were hoping to be able to lobby on the bill during our lobby day, but it did pass and signed into law on July 4th. That being said, this is an important window, I think, for us to still engage on it and let our voices be heard. So we're kind of pivoting to the next step, which is just as critical, I think, as what came before.
Okay. Yeah, so let's talk about that. Where does this leave us now in terms of what we're going to lobby on, what we're going to focus on with Congress when we go into our lobby meetings on the 22nd?
Yeah, the first thing is that, we don't want to just let this bill go. We don't want to just let this pass and, move on to other topics completely. This is a really critical window to let members of Congress know that constituents are watching, we're watching as climate advocates, and we really care. When I was on the Hill, there was this window after a vote of a few weeks where we'd pay attention to the calls and the emails and see, did this resonate? Are people paying attention? Or was this fine? No big deal. And so we want to take advantage of that window. We want to let them know what we think of the bill, what we want to happen going forward. We want to really, one, change these harmful provisions, two, prevent any additional harmful provisions, and make things more stable for clean energy going forward. But we don't just want to be reactionary. So while we do have an ask on this specific reconciliation bill and the clean energy tax credits, we're thinking more broadly, what else is there that is next? The next most important things that the Congress can do on climate is permitting reform, as well as funding some of these key clean energy programs that President Trump has proposed to cut. So we're going to focus on not just how do we respond to this immediate vote, but also what are the other important things? And all of these asks that we're thinking of that are the most important things that Congress can really take a hold of the remaining of this Congress are all clean energy focused. So we're going to have a clean energy themed primary ask for every single member, Republican and Democrats. It'll be framed with different language, but we're really going to take our message to the Hill, let them know that clean energy is important, not just for climate, not just for emissions, but for energy costs, for American competitiveness, and overall for the success of our economy as a country. So I think it's going to be a really important ask to make, not just following up on this reconciliation process, but I also think it's going to be really resonant with members right now who are thinking, what are my constituents thinking about everything happening right now? We're going to go and let them know exactly what we're thinking.
Awesome. Yeah, and that's what we do so powerfully and uniquely, is talk to just about all of Congress in one voice, in one day. That's so cool. Okay, do we have any secondary asks? Folks who've been around us for a while might know that we often have a primary ask and then secondary asks that are for smaller portions of Congress. So can you speak to those?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, our primary ask is going to be that clean energy themed ask, but we are still looking at all of the different avenues for climate policy this Congress. And one of the most promising ones outside of those larger areas of clean energy permitting reform is forestry. We've seen the Fix Our Forest Act move through the House, and it's kind of a mesh between forestry and permitting reform legislation. It passed the House. It then was referred to the Senate. There's a really positive Senate bill that was introduced, the Fix Our Forest Act on the Senate side, a bipartisan bill. It made some really critical improvements to that House bill. So the bill's gotten even better. It's being improved upon. It's gaining more bipartisan support in the Senate. And so that is going to be our secondary ask, the Fix Our Forest Act, for all of the Senate, and then also for House Democrats. When it does ideally pass the Senate with our support after we advocate, we want to make sure House Democrats are ready to support it. So that's going to be our secondary ask. We are going to have an optional ask on the Foreign Pollution Fee Act and CBAM legislation, foreign pollution tariff legislation. That's a policy we've worked on for many, many years. It was a part of our original carbon pricing platform, a CBAM, carbon border adjustment mechanism, and now there's legislation out there. So we're going to ask. It's an optional ask, but if you have a Republican member who you think appreciates that specific policy or area, that's an optional ask to bring up, to look at foreign pollution fee tariff legislation and to start giving it a look, see if they can co-sponsor or be a leader on the issue.
Okay, great. And I just glanced at the Q&A, and I do see one question that I want to ask, because it's related to what you said about the reconciliation process and how that the partisan headwinds are so strong. Paul in the Q&A is asking, what's the best strategy to break through that partisan roadblock? So can you share a little bit about how we think about that landscape?
Yeah, well, part of it is out of our control, right? If you ever have one party that's going to have the House and Senate and the administration, they're going to try to pursue reconciliation. There's no stopping that, and that's not going to be a bipartisan process. We saw Democrats do it, Republicans have done it a few times. It's just what's going to happen. So part of it, there's no real way to change some of the process. That being said, what we can do is, while we're going to engage on those partisan processes, like we did with reconciliation, we don't want to let go of all the other avenues and keep pushing Republicans and Democrats to come together. So I do think by having these messages in coordination with our messages on reconciliation, having these other messages on permitting reform, on these clean energy programs that President Trump wants to cut, these things that do have bipartisan support, the more we can lean into that and lead Republicans and Democrats to that issue from a framing that resonates with them, the more they're going to be able to kind of pivot to that, not let go of the partisan processes, obviously, but they'll have a little more reason to come to that side. And I also think I want to just note, it's so important we show up. This is a time when so many groups are not, environmental groups are not lobbying on the Hill. And so the more we're able to show that we are truly consistent, we're credible, we're an ally to the climate movement, and ideally to our congressional offices on climate, the better it is. The better it is that, there's someone filling that void. If we're not there, it's industry. It's fossil fuel industry in those rooms. So the more we can show up, the more we can make our voices heard, the more we're able to kind of lead them to some of these more important bipartisan climate avenues.
That's great. Okay, well, let's wrap up there with that idea of sort of what it feels like, what our lobby day looks and feels like from the office's perspective. Because I know folks on the call, maybe if they've come to a lobby day in the past, they know how it feels to, that energy and the empowerment, what it's like when we're there on Capitol Hill. But I wonder if you can share a little bit more about that, the impact that it makes when regular people like us show up by the hundreds.
Yeah, I've told, I think, stories a lot of when I was on the Hill and what it looked like to see a CCL lobby day. But I'll tell a more recent one. I was just meeting with an office probably a couple months ago about some of this reconciliation stuff, a Republican office, and they were commenting that they just don't hear very much from environmental groups anymore. And they asked, "Are you guys still going to do your lobby day?" Because they'd heard from other groups that they just weren't coming. They weren't going to do their lobby day. And this is a Republican whose staff is very engaged on climate, but the member isn't. But the staff was really saying, where is everyone? They were asking me as a representative of the environmental nonprofit space. And I just spoke for us, yeah, we're coming. And they were super excited. And they said, I'm going to make sure my member gets to see your volunteers. I want to make sure it's a face-to-face meeting, because they realize there is this gap right now in folks coming to the Hill. It's a climate specific issue, but I think it's permeating a lot of different areas now where folks are not showing up, and having that direct constituent interaction is so critical, especially right now where there's other forces at play. We have to have this direct conversation about what does this policy mean to us on the ground. So I think I can't overstate how significant it is to show up in these offices, to let the member know where you're from, what part of their community, to create that bond, to create that relationship, and then let them know what this policy means to you. It goes so far in setting a foundation, but also in moving things forward on this really pressing immediate policy that we're working on. So I cannot wait to join everyone. I'm super excited to see the outcome and to hear about all the good conversations. It's a tough time. We're having some tough conversations with offices, but I think it's all going to be for the best. And we're really going to make a lot of headway in showing up in these tough times and making our voices heard. So I can't wait to see everyone in a week.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jen. We'll see you then.
Bravo. That was great. Ron, I assume that's where we stopped, right? That was my cue.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm gonna get back to our screen share.
Okay, good. And I'm going to get back to my speaker notes, and let's see, where are we now? Well, really, to follow Jen is a tough act, but he's going to put some links in the chat. The primary ask, as Jen so eloquently stated, smart energy permitting reform, funding for clean energy projects in fiscal year 2026, which begins, and the voting, as I understand it, is going to be in September of this year for the next fiscal year. And then the secondary ask is the Fix Our Forest Act. That'll be interesting for the lobby team, because we know both representatives in the House voted against the Fix Our Forest Act. So I think we will ask, probably one of our key questions regarding that would be, do you see improvements that you like in the Senate bill, that's Senate 1462? And does that influence your decision to vote positive if that Senate bill passes and comes back to the House for their approval? So going on to the conference and lobby day. Okay, so the House passed the Senate version of the One Big Beautiful Bill, OBBB for short. And it was a very close vote. It was so close, in fact, that Vice President Vance had to come in and pass the deciding vote. But nevertheless, the next day was July 4th, I believe, and the president signed it into law. So it is now the law of the land, and excuse me, and we have to accept that and go forward. I should ask maybe at this point, Noel, is there any comments folks would like to make on that real interesting clip that came from the Saturday, July 12th call? Any comments out there that people would like to share?
Let me stop sharing so we can see each other.
Okay.
And I see there's some items in the chat.
Yeah, Tom's got his hand up. Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, Ron, you said that the two Hawaii reps voted against the Forest Act before it got improved in the Senate. Do we know why they opposed it? And
yes, well, I'm not sure that I have a super clear answer on that, other than a lot of environmental groups did oppose it, such as the only one I know for sure is the Sierra Club. And I think they were influenced by the fact that there was a perception among left-leaning environmental groups that the Fix Our Forest Act was going to maybe dilute important climate provisions, such as somebody can help me out with this, such as, Bill, what's that big act that oversees all climate actions?
You mean NEPA, Ron?
Yeah, I do. Who said that?
I did, Paul.
Thanks. Paul, yeah. NEPA. I think NEPA was kind of obliquely threatened, and maybe the perception of it being diluted was over-interpreted, because I think more information has come out that NEPA was not affected. But anyway, we can ask Paul, can't we, when we go meet with Joe Takuda and Ed Case?
Yeah, I'll just add, Tom, that I think Case felt that it was going to open up the forest way too much to logging and what have you. He didn't. I think when we talked to him about it, I think he felt that there just weren't enough safeguards in there. So.
Okay.
And I'll just say he was pretty adamant about his position. He made some comment that, unlike other representatives, I actually read the bill. So, anyways, he knew about it and was opposed.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, Paul, many of us may have seen, there was research done by how to remove a monocultural wall of forestry trees and thin them in such a way that you have groups of trees separated by more clear land and then more groups of trees. And at the end of the day, the forest that was thinned survived far better than the forest that was left standing en masse without human intervention, I should say. So, it's a difficult subject to get all the details right. So, yeah, go ahead. Anybody?
I've put in the chat a article that I didn't make it entirely to the bottom two, but it discusses how some of these small timber, communities. I mean, their knothole is it's better for them. They've had a kind of they've perceived that they've had a kind of tough time, and some of the tariffs would help them supply domestic lumber. In the Pacific Northwest, I suppose for a lot part of the country rather, that's the U.S. A lot of timber comes in from Canada. But domestically, the Pacific Northwest provides a lot of timber, and also the Southeast. They have a lot of monocrop sort of timber forests. But the lumberjacks are kind of liking it, I guess.
Mm.
Anyway, I put that in the chat if anybody cares to read it.
Thanks, Keith. Okay.
Ron, I'd just like to add before I transition back to the share that, well, first of all, I admit I had not seen the video, the recording, but hearing Jen's last few comments regarding the fact that, the other environmental groups are not there, for whatever reason, and that we are, right? We almost have this unique opportunity to be a representative for the environmental movement and ensuring that there continues to be this, importance and urgency on ensuring that we're focused on the climate, we're focused on the environment. So I just wanted to highlight that. I thought that was very inspiring. And who knows? I mean, maybe next year it'll be the same. And I think should be more motivation for even more engagement from CCLers, right? So anyway, I just wanted to highlight that observation.
Yeah, good points, Noel. Thanks. Yeah, so let's, if we can, go back to the slide deck.
Yep, we're there.
Good, thank you. And so this here, given that it's, we've got about 15 minutes left in this presentation. Noel, I think what I might suggest is if Keith could put this policy roadmap in the chat. This is an interactive roadmap.
Pardon me, Ron. So are we done socializing lobby day? That's what I'm sharing right now. We're done with this one, right?
Yeah, we're on slide 12.
So so we've covered this.
Yeah, thanks.
So Keith, you'll put a link to this in the chat?
It's in there.
Okay.
Okay, super, Keith. Thank you. So what this shows is a whole bunch of actions that we've taken month by month or week by week, and you can click on these and it'll open up a box that tells you a whole bunch more, not a huge bunch, but a nice pop-up window that shows you what happened along the way. And Flannery takes about, I think, 6 or 7 minutes to describe this. So if you want to view the complete call that we only played midsection of, you will see Flannery's explanation of this. But I think if you just go there, click on that link, open it up on your computer, there's a little pickup right over here which says road closed. And that is what Jen was referring to when she said the House bill and the toxic provision of an extra solar and wind tax got deleted by the Senate, partially through CCL's advocacy, no doubt. So that side road, which would have been very bad, that road got closed, and there's a little road closed sign. So now we're heading on to the July conference, and there's other actions towards the end of the year. So, having said all that, on slide 13, there is an action. We mentioned that you can take 1 minute, 5 minutes a month or every week if you like. And the link in the chat there is cclusa.org/PR. And when you click on that link, it will open up advice as to what you might want to say when you call or write to Congress. And when you follow that link, your action will be automatically tracked on the action tracker. So that's great. And when you write to Congress, you do have to provide your name, your address, including your zip code, and you have to include your email address. Congress doesn't accept stuff if it's just from some anonymous source. You've got to identify yourself to be effective. So follow that link maybe after the meeting, and then the next slide is kind of neat, and this is slide 14. And what I'd like to just do, if I can, Noel, is just share that this is a call to action to support Paul. It's on the call tonight. Karina, who's on the call tonight, and Sarah, who's not on the call tonight, but she's going to be in Washington, D.C. So the idea is that we call our members of Congress and say something like, I'm a constituent who lives in Volcano Village. People from my community are visiting your office today as part of Citizens Climate Lobby Annual Lobby Day. We're talking with Republicans and Democrats alike, building support for federal policy that will help ensure America's energy is affordable, reliable, and clean. Please note that the folks visiting your office represent many more of us here in Volcano Village, and please listen to what they have to say. Thank you. So that call is, takes a little bit of chutzpah. It takes a little bit of effort, and it doesn't take more than 5 or 10 minutes, and very effective to do that. So please follow through if you can. And now we have, I hope, enough time to go through Hawaii updates, slide 15, Noel, and we hand that over to.
Yeah, let me run through it real quick because we're almost out of time. So quick updates here. We can read this. And Paul, I think this is the first one's for you, right? Climate Future Forum. There continues to be an effort to recruit mentors to help student leaders for the next period here, 2025-26. There's also an effort with a subset of leaders here to help define or identify complementary metrics to help us and decision makers and legislators essentially quantify emissions. So there's a lot of work that's happening in this particular space. For carbon cashback, there's been, I think we've mentioned this before, but we've expanded the scope of the policy areas that we're socializing and supporting as a way to increase collaboration and also support for carbon cashback. And the last item I have on the list here, this is all actually followed up by another slide. If you're following Navahini versus HDOT, there was a settlement a year ago, and as a result of that, there was the definition of this action plan that Department of Transportation had put out and labeled Hawaii Energy Security and Waste Reduction Plan. There's actually a link here, and this will go in the chat. It allows us to review the plan, the general public, and then also to provide comment. There are also live sessions, and you'll find that in the document. This is really important. Please socialize this with colleagues and friends and family, so we all get a chance to provide feedback on this plan. Paul, you have your hand up?
Yeah, just in case folks don't know that, I guess Bobby presented on carbon cashback yesterday, and there's a meeting on the 27th and a meeting on the 28th, as you're saying, the future meetings. And we'll actually have a youth, Chelsea, and I'm forgetting on who's presenting on the 28th. But so we're going to kind of hit on carbon cashback at the 3 public meetings. And Carbon Cashback Hawaii is also in the process of kind of writing or providing comments as a group on the policy.
Thanks, Paul. It's a fairly lengthy one, and if there are sections that we're really interested in, we can focus our comment on that. But this is a great opportunity for us to influence what happens because there's quite a bit of investment that's required to execute on this plan, and it's going to go on for a few years. So here's an opportunity for all of us to influence what happens. Do we have someone covering this one?
Oh,
Yep.
actually, I just joined.
Hey, there you are.
Sorry.
Perfect timing.
I'm late, but so there were 2 letters published. One about the tax credits. Unfortunately, it's about the state bill that would have eliminated Hawaii's renewable energy tax credits. And the governor did veto it, so it was a letter in support of him vetoing it. And it was published the day after it was submitted. So that was very nice of the paper to see how timely it was. And then Tom's letter about the importance of the Navahini that you've just been hearing all about. And putting in a word for carbon cashback by way of a letter, which was also published.
Thanks, Virginia. Mm-hmm. And we have a couple in queue, right, with Star Advertiser.
Right. So. Yeah. I don't know if should I mention those or yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you can.
Sure. So Noel submitted a couple that the Star Advertiser is looking at. So was it? I guess today he submitted one that Sophia Park wrote, and she's a high school student, and he submitted one that's called The Tragedy of the Commons. And I think there might even be another one, huh?
Yeah, we're a lean op-ed churning machine.
We are.
Thanks to you for your leadership and pushing things along. Anyway, I'm going to move back to the slide here. Doug, do you want to quickly talk about this one?
Right. All the folks on this call have been involved in carbon cashback and supporters. And so if you haven't had a chance to endorse, please endorse. And the next slide, Noel, if you flip to, is the standing meetings. And I just want to reiterate what Paul said, carbon cashback has opportunity to be kind of nimble and respond, and we did respond. We came up with a plan to respond to the HDOT and have that climate conversation in front of folks and have supporters for carbon pricing out there that we didn't know about during the HDOT call. And so there's a lot of opportunity to continue outreach and optimism, at the state level. And I thank everyone on this call for participating in that.
Super, Doug. Thank you. And then, Keith, if you could put that attendance link in the chat again.
Actually,
that would...
Katrina's already done it.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Okay.
Paul.
Yes, sorry if I'm missing it, but you shared a link, or somebody shared a link to the script that people can call members of Congress on the 22nd. Is there a link to actually so those calls are recorded within CCL? You mentioned something, Ron, and maybe I'm just blind, but I'm.
Yeah, I looked hard this afternoon, Paul, and I could not find. All I could find was a link to the July action sheet, which includes that script that I put on the slide. I didn't find a hot link to actually dial Congress for it.
Right.
Yeah? And that may be pending. Maybe they haven't gotten around to just putting that up yet, but I think it's coming.
Okay. Hopefully it will come soon so we can share it with folks. Okay, thanks.
Yes. Yes.
Hey, Ron, I know we're almost out of time, but before we do run out of time, I want to give our leaders the opportunity to say something if they so choose. Referring to Karina and Bill, anything from national that you'd like to socialize or impart?
Well, thanks, Noel. Karina may have something, but I'll just say that I believe that the action that Ron was referencing, that there will be a email that goes out to all active volunteers that will have a way to take the action, and it'll get automatically logged in CCL. So stay tuned for that. I just checked. I don't see it in my inbox right now. I'm not sure exactly when it's coming out, but I know that the intention is that it will, and that we are really trying to create the opportunity for volunteers who are not going to DC to help contribute, like Ron shared the content of the request, to just show that there's support from constituents that are not coming to DC to support the people who are.
Thank you.
Super, Bill. Thanks so much.
I put a link in the chat. As you know, part of my work is supporting a good number of affinity groups. In the last 2 months, I have inherited the faith community at CCL. So I'm working with the affinity teams and the 13 different faith communities that we now have. So there is a space now called Faith Community Action Team, where we're just inviting everybody. Anyone that is interested in learning about the different communities of faith that reside in CCL can go there and connect. And then if they're interested in participating in any individual community, they can visit. But those meetings started about a month ago. And the intention is to continue to grow with the purpose of uniting all the different communities to see how they can lobby for carbon pricing in the future. You know, what would that work look like? A lot of those communities believe in creation care, right? There hasn't really been something to activate that kind of action besides them doing them individually, but that is the purpose. So it's just starting. There's that, and that's all I got. So yeah.
That's a lot, Karina. Thank you so much. Yeah, excellent. So we are at the top of the hour, and I think there is a nice final slide. Noel, would that be true?
It is this is the slide where when I share it, you're supposed to sing something. So you'd be ready. Ready, Ron? 1, 2, 3.